So after the meal is a good time to give a Dhamma talk. Go against the drowsiness. And then these days with the live stream, even if you do have drowsiness, you can just lay in your bed and watch the Dhamma talk. So it's best of both worlds. So the Daylong, the theme today is adaptability. This is the annual Insight Santa Cruz Daylong that happens at Abhayagiri, and now and times are always changing. So last year we did this on Zoom, but for myself, I found it very exhausting giving teachings and managing a Zoom session at the same time. So we're just live streaming it on YouTube, and then also people can watch it later if they like, or do a half-day retreat if they want to view this later. For people viewing it live or people who are here in person, we had a 2-hour morning session and we have a 3-hour afternoon session ahead of us. So that's 5 hours of practice. So that's very good if we're able to do that and make that more of a habit to keep the practice going. Sometimes we do need to go against how we feel and push ourselves a bit. We might feel a bit tired and feel like it might be nice to take a rest. And yeah, that is nice, but it's not the way to brighten the mind. So the 3 qualities I was mentioning this morning that we want to be cultivating if we want to develop a sense of adaptability in the practice, that's brightness, uprightness, and malleability of mind. And these are factors that, this is a quote from Longpa Ban, that when he said, when you cultivate sila, samadhi, panya to the fullest point, the mind has brightness, uprightness, and malleability. So when we train the mind to be in this way, and this is also in the suttas, the Buddha talks about the factors of jhana, that when the mind is upright, wieldy, malleable, fit for work, that's a phraseology used in the suttas. The Buddha's talking about right concentration, sama samadhi. So brightness, uprightness, malleability. If we want to brighten the mind, brightening comes actually from enduring hardships, not just needlessly inflicting hardships or pain on ourselves, but actually sometimes pushing the envelope, sometimes going against the feelings of tiredness, sitting when we don't want to sit, sitting meditation when we don't want to sit meditation, walking meditation when we don't necessarily want to walk meditation, but we question that feeling and don't just blindly follow along with it. And when we do that, then we develop a reflective attitude that, oh yeah, it's actually not that bad, I can actually do this. And we start to really learn more about ourselves, learn more about the mind, develop a sense of curiosity when we're training our mind. And we see we are capable of so much more than our self-applied boundaries would tell us. So brightness, uprightness, malleability, this leads to adaptability. And as Ajahn Amaro would like to say, that adaptability is the key to happiness. So it's like when the woodpeckers start pecking the building, that we have to be able to laugh at it instead of become enraged. And so they're just following their nature. They think that this building is just a tree. It's just part of their oak tree that's next to it. It's just another oddly shaped branch coming off of the tree. So they're doing their thing on the building. And so when we do develop a sense of adaptability, then we are able to flow into any situation with peace of mind and be a bit more settled in any situation, and even be a bit more settled when our mind is feeling a little agitated, or when we might not feel settled. We can even settle into that in a sense by being mindful of whatever state we're in. We can be mindful of whatever state we're in, and we can settle into an observance of whatever state we're in. That is one type of settling. So it's not about the body always feeling good. It's not about the mind always feeling good, because that's just the worldly way of thinking, wanting to always feel good. It's more about being more okay with however we feel. So adaptability means being more okay with however we feel and acknowledging that the mind is just going to go through all sorts of moods throughout the day and the night, and the body is going to go through all sorts of moods and states as well. So the mind and the body are ever changing. We might feel good in the morning and kind of crummy in the evening, or we might feel kind of like it's slow or hard to get started in the morning and hard to pay attention, hard to focus, and we might feel better and brighter in the evening. So it really depends. It really depends on just our conditioning and also the amount that we've practiced so far. I remember I was mentioning Luang Por Ban. I was listening to I spent one period of time listening to a number of talks of his, and these are in Thai. For those who don't know, some terminology, Luang Por means venerable father, so it's a respectful term for a very senior monk. And then Ban is this monk's name. So for example, Luang Por Cha, Luang Por Mun, Luang Por Ban. So we have, I was listening to this talk, and he was giving this talk during the hot season, and it wasn't so much about the content of what he was saying, but it was very, very hot outside, and he was speaking outside, and there was a lot of flies. So there was a lot of flies buzzing around him, and there was a lot of flies getting close to the microphone, so you could hear these flies just, and he was just giving a Dhamma talk with all these flies buzzing around. And I just thought, wow, that's really impressive. He can give a Dhamma talk with all those flies just buzzing around his head, and incredibly hot. He must have been sweating and uncomfortable, but just having a sense of patience and endurance with it. He was speaking in a slow, measured way. And obviously the talk was geared toward just being okay with the unpleasant, just being okay with the unpleasant. And here in California at Abhayagiri in the autumn, we have like really perfect weather, ideal weather. So we don't have to put up with that much unpleasantness as to the weather. But if we go to a place like Thailand, it's humid, it can be very hot, or India, it can be hot and humid and very dusty outside. And so it can be unpleasant, and that can wear on us. It's like chronic pain. Chronic pain, we might be able to endure pain for a little bit, but if it's chronic pain, then it really wears on us, and it's difficult to endure for a long period of time. So when we're in a difficult situation with weather, or we're subjected to living with people we'd rather not live with, then over time, how do we adapt? How do we adapt and make the best of the situation? Because adaptability doesn't just mean being okay with every situation, but it also means how do we make the best of every situation? How can we make the best of a situation where it doesn't seem like we're in the best circumstances? So when the mind thinks like this, it's very courageous and can be very heroic and full of energy, because when we start to see that we can actually adapt to almost anything, then that gives us a lot of encouragement in our practice. We might even want to sit meditation longer or walk meditation longer. We might be inspired to do things like this. And if we try to do, say, walking meditation for 2, 3, or even 4 hours or longer, there's going to be mental resistance that comes up. And when that mental resistance comes up, then that's when it gets interesting, because we're at the edge. We're at the edge of pushing the envelope a little bit of what we are able to do, or our self-created boundaries. We're at the edge of those. And so when we get to that edge, then we're able to look, what's this resistance in the mind? Why can't the mind let go? Why can't the mind be at ease? All I'm doing is walking back and forth. There's nothing special happening, but there's this idea of time. There's this idea of going for a long time. And there's maybe a feeling of tiredness in the legs from doing a long period of walking meditation. Or there might be an idea that I have better things to do. This is a meaningless activity. I'm just walking back and forth. There could be something more constructive that I could be doing. So to shift the focus a bit and see that doing long periods of sitting meditation or long periods of walking meditation, it actually is incredibly beneficial and constructive because those activities, those are the very activities that are training the mind. So other types of activities, there might be genuinely good work to do around the monastery, around the house, genuinely good things to do, genuinely helpful. And that's one type of parami, that's dana parami, that's the perfection of generosity, or being very generous, being very giving. But that's in the realm of material things. That's in the realm of material things. So then to actually be constructive in our practice means to be able to sit longer, walk longer, actually take a look. What does the mind do when it doesn't have that much to do? What does the mind do when there's not that much physical activity happening? What does the mind do when there's no issues? What does the mind do when there's no worries? Does it try to find something to worry about? Does it try to create an issue? What does the mind do when there's no problems? So we can always find problems. There's always problems all around us, problems in the world, problems in the community, problems with the people around us, problems with ourselves. We can always create problems. We can always find problems and chew on them and try to solve them. And that's easy to do. It's easy to just see what's wrong with the world and really feel awful about it. But what's difficult and unusual and what happens when we come to Dhamma is seeing that there is no worries, there is no problem. The only issues are what the mind creates. And greed, hatred, and delusion, these three root poisons or these three root obstructions in the mind, they come from the not seeing the true nature of things, that what we call avijja or ignorance. So through that and through that fundamental darkness, that fundamental lack of mindfulness, then the mind creates issues. The mind creates problems. The mind worries about things. One possible alternate definition of worry, it's like chewing on something. So like a dog worrying a bone. So when a dog worries a bone, it's like got the bone in its mouth and it's kind of like pulling it back and forth, and it's like gnashing its teeth into it. So that's another way to think of the word worry, like really kind of sinking our teeth into something, chewing on something, gnashing on something. And so when we come back to somebody like Longpa Liam talking about no worries, how there's no worries. There's no worries anywhere. Or Longpa Sumedho just stopping halfway through a Dhamma talk and saying, there is no suffering. There is no suffering. So this is profound to think like this, and we might even feel bad or guilty that, well, we should be concerned about things. We should be worrying about things. We should be focusing on issues that need to be focused on. In terms of the practice, in terms of training the mind, we want to try to come back to that sense of not flowing out. So this is how we learn. We learn to adapt. We learn to adapt to any situation so that the mind can have a sense of no worries. We'll make it work. We'll make it work somehow. It'll always work out. This is also a reflection on kamma, what we normally know as the Sanskrit word karma. In Pali we say kamma, K-A-M-M-A. If we say K long A M A, so just one M, that means sensuality, so we don't want to get that wrong. I say kamma with two M's. Kamma or karma. I like to say karma so I don't get it mixed up with the word for sensuality. So if we say a reflection on karma, that whatever's occurring for us is exactly as it should be in the moment. And in the moment, we have the freedom to make an adjustment. Our choices are going to be conditioned by our past karma, but we can curb the direction that our future karma goes in. So the present moment is we now have this amazing freedom in the moment to push things in a certain direction. We can't just do a 180 necessarily. We can't just do a 180, but we can nudge things in a certain direction. And the way we nudge things is going to be conditioned by our past karma, but it's also we're reconditioning ourselves, and that we are putting ourselves closer to the Noble Eightfold Path through the practices that we're doing, through the Buddha's teaching. So we do make adjustments. We don't just sit and passively let things happen. we do make adjustments. And those adjustments happen through mindfulness, through deciding to be present for things, deciding to be okay with things. When we decide to be okay with things, when we decide to be present with things, then the adjustment naturally happens. That's the kind of karma we want to be creating. There's these different types of karma. There's what we call the negative karma, leading to negative results. So negative actions leading to negative results. There's positive karma, positive actions leading to positive results. There is a mixture of positive and negative leading to a mixture of positive and negative results. Then there is what we call imperturbable karma, and that's the Noble Eightfold Path. That's called the karma leading to the ending of karma. And that type of karma is created when we cultivate mindfulness. So when we decide to not push things away or not get lost in things. So when we have something good happen to us and we attach to it and absorb into it and get lost in it, we could say that's a type of positive karma. When we are averse to something and we try to push it away, try to destroy it, try to get rid of it, we could say that's a type of negative karma. But when good and bad things happen to us, pleasant and unpleasant things happen to us, gain and loss happens to us, praise and disrepute happens to us, gain of status and loss of status happens to us. Happiness and suffering happens to us. So if all these things happen to us, and rather than clinging to them or pushing them away, then we're aware of them and we contemplate them and we're okay with them and we experience them fully. That's getting closer to what we call the karma leading to the ending of karma, the imperturbable karma. And that is a choice we have in the present. But we do have to have that sense of adaptability even to be able to make that choice. And so we can back up and say, how are we going to get to the point where we can make the choice to be mindful? Well, that's going to come from sila, samadhi, panya, so the keeping of precepts, the regular practice of meditation, and training the mind, keeping the mind, training the mind to be firmly established in the present moment, and the cultivation of panya, wisdom, discernment. And that wisdom and discernment is going to be the wisdom that sees the impermanent nature of the conditioned realm, the impermanent and unsatisfactory and not self nature of the conditioned realm. And when that discernment arises, then the letting go, we can only let go with discernment. We can't let go by an act of will. It actually has to happen through the sila, samadhi, panya, through the virtue or precepts, ethical behavior, through the meditation practice, and through seeing things very, very clearly according to the true nature of things, i.e. impermanence, anicca, impermanent, uncertain, unstable. When we see that clearly, the mind will naturally start to let go. It won't be able to hold on. That's when it's going to become very adaptable. That's when it's going to become very bright. Brightness, uprightness, malleability. So when the mind becomes very adaptable, and there's a sense of no worries, no issues, no problems, then it's going to start to get stronger. Through that quietude and that stillness, it's going to start to get stronger. And then when it gets stronger, then it can truly adapt to any situation. It can adapt on the fly. It can adapt as needed. It could say, okay, well, this is a difficult situation. This is a difficult situation, but we can adapt. We can adapt to it. And we can adapt in a way that's going to be of benefit to ourselves and others. So adaptability is this, it's a very important quality to be reflecting on and cultivating. And as a rule, I don't talk about like the news or politics during Dhamma talks, so I won't talk about any details of that. But of course, it's on everybody's mind, so I can talk about it in terms of adaptability, that if the things we don't want to happen do happen, just remember that this too will pass, this too will change. If the people we want to get elected, that'll change. If the people we don't want to get elected, that'll change too. Time doesn't just stop. We won't go into a state of suspended animation. Things will keep moving. And so when we think like this, we think, well, yeah, actually, things are exactly as they should be. There's just worldly causes and conditions. Things are exactly as they are. If they shouldn't be this way, they wouldn't be this way. And the world is a big place. I think there's 8 billion people now in the world. All this different intentionality happening all at the same time. How could you control it? I mean, we can't even control ourselves. We can't even control our own mind. How can we control 8 billion people who also can't control their own mind? So it's just, the answer is just forget it. The answer is let go. So there's no problem. Things are as they should be. Things are exactly how they should be in the moment. And when we think like that, then we can truly adapt and we can feel okay. So even if we're not feeling good in the moment, and this is in the suttas, it's really interesting. If we're mindful, if we have awareness of how we feel and we're not feeling very good, that awareness will cause the unpleasant feeling to actually tend more toward a neutral feeling. And if we have neutral feeling and we're aware of it, that feeling will then change and tend toward pleasant feeling. So that is karma. That awareness is a specific type of karma which causes that change to take place. So we are doing something in the practice. We are doing something, and that doing is the very reminder. Mindfulness, what we call sati, that is the reminder. We're actually using thought. We're reminding ourselves to be aware in the moment, to be aware of what's happening without pushing away or attaching to. So that's mindfulness. And then awareness is what we call sampajanya. Awareness is what we're actually doing. So mindfulness is the reminder to ourselves to be aware, and awareness is the act of actually being aware. This is also connected with two qualities, vitakka, vichara, applied and sustained thought. They're all the Buddhist teachings. The Buddhist teachings are like a sheet. Anywhere you pick up the sheet, the whole sheet comes along with it. Anything in the Buddhist teachings, it's all reinforcing all the other teachings. Every sentence of the Buddhist teachings is reinforcing every other sentence and paragraph and verse in the Buddhist teachings. You pick up one point, the whole thing comes up with it. So you pick up mindfulness and clear awareness, the whole of the path comes up with it. If you pick up virtue and precepts, the whole of the path comes up with it. If you pick up just applied and sustained thought and tranquility and equanimity, the whole of the path comes up with it. If you pick up the teachings on karma, all those other things come up with it. It's all pointing to the brightness, uprightness, malleability, adaptability. That's enough words, and now we can meditate for about a little over 20 more minutes. We'll do some sitting, and then at the end of this meditation period, I'll give a little bit of instruction on walking meditation, and then we'll transition into half an hour of walking meditation before we come back and do more sitting, and then we'll follow that with some Q&A.